Before we get started here, I'd just like to begin by dedicating this video to the late, great Marianne Faithfull. This is a bird. This is also a bird. This too is a bird. And this here is the best type of bird. All these birds are able to sing. But can your bird sing? Well, welcome back to Revolver In-Depth, and this is episode 9, and your bird can sing. But you don't get me. So the story I'm going to be sharing today is actually quite a tricky one to tell, because other than later dismissing the song as substandard and horrible, John Lennon never actually spoke about this song and shared what its inspiration was. So all the stories that we have about this song are pure speculation. So the stories I'm going to share today have all come from accounts by other people, so again, it's all speculation. But once I've shared these different stories, it's up to you to decide which one you believe. I know which one I believe, and I've always liked to roll with one particular story about this song, which I will share. But let's just get into these 3 stories about what this song could be about. Now, our first story here comes courtesy of Lennon's first wife, Cynthia, who would later claim that she was the inspiration behind this song. Now, she claims that she bought Lennon a present, which was a clockwork bird which was inside a cage. Now, when she gave Lennon this present, she wound it up and the bird came out singing. And Lennon was apparently in a state of disbelief over this present. So there's 2 ways to interpret this. Basically, he was in disbelief at the technology here, that he couldn't believe you could wind this bird up and it would start singing. Or there's the other way of looking at it, which is the way, if I was playing devil's advocate, I would probably go with this. Lennon couldn't believe that she'd bought him this present because this wasn't the sort of thing he was into. He was in a state of disbelief that his own wife didn't know him. He's seen this present as a metaphor for his marriage and his life at the time. He was basically a caged animal who couldn't get out and be himself because his wife and no one around him understood him. So the working title for this song, we do know this for certain on the handwritten lyrics, is You Don't Get Me, sorry. And yeah, that is quite a good metaphor for the marriage between Cynthia and John. They didn't get each other, you don't get me. So that's the first story, allegedly this song being about Cynthia and John's marriage, but I don't know if I believe that. Well, I don't believe that story. I'll get to the one I believe, but let's get on to the second story. Now, our second story here claims that this song is about Frank Sinatra, and it's inspired by an article that Lennon read about Sinatra in Esquire magazine. The article focused on Sinatra's wealth and power and described him as a man who could have anything he wanted, and apparently he would also use the word bird to describe his penis. Sinatra also made sly digs towards the Beatles around this period, so Lennon would allegedly write this song in response to Sinatra's digs towards the band and the article Lennon had read about him. Now, I've got to be honest with you, I don't believe this story. I don't think this is what the song's about. I'd never actually heard this story until I'd done the script for this video. I'd heard the Cynthia story and the story that's coming next, but I'd never heard this one before, and I've never heard anyone refer to their chap as a bird. So, yeah, I don't think that's what this song is about, but maybe it is. Again, we'll never know. If you want to believe this story, be my guest. Now, the third and final story here is also the most famous one. It's the one that we all like to believe. I really hope this is the real reason. We'll never know for certain, but it's the one I believe. It's the one that most people believe. And it's the idea that this song is actually about Mick Jagger. Now, this came from Marianne Faithfull originally, who was Mick Jagger's girlfriend at the time. Now, she claimed that because she is a singer, this song is about Mick, and obviously his bird can sing because she is a singer. Now, for those of you who don't know this, here in England, bird is slang for girl. And the Beatles would do this a few times. So, for example, Norwegian wood, this bird has flown. What that is basically saying, it's a poetic way of saying, Norwegian wood, this girl has left me, is basically what that's saying in a nice poetic way. There's also blackbird, which literally means, that will come later, but blackbird literally means black girl. So I think personally this song, And Your Bird Can Sing, based on the fact that the Beatles have a track record for doing this, is most likely using the term bird for girl, so it actually means And Your Girl Can Sing. So the idea of this being about Marianne Faithfull being the bird, and the song itself being about Mick Jagger, would make sense. Now, the way it also goes was Lennon was inspired by this rivalry between the Stones and the Beatles. Now, they were actually good friends, the band. However, Lennon did see the Stones as effectively Beatles copycats, a Beatles tribute band. Whatever the Beatles did, the Stones would then copy it, which you can kind of maybe see where he would get that from, and I say that as a huge fan of the Stones. So he would write this song basically about Mick and them copying the Beatles and Lennon's frustration with this. So, yeah, like I say, we will never know for certain if this is true. We don't even know if the dates all add up. There is rumours that Marianne Faithfull wasn't actually with Mick Jagger when this song was written and recorded, but we don't know anything for certain here. But the story I like to believe is that this song is about Mick Jagger because it's a cool story and his bird could sing, so it makes sense. Whereas Cynthia, who was John's bird, she couldn't sing, so it wouldn't quite make sense. But then the rest of the lyrics make sense with Cynthia as well, but then the lyrics also make sense with Mick Jagger, so it's confusing, but yeah, I think it's about Mick Jagger and Marianne Faithfull, this song. So the lyrics themselves here see Lennon hint at a knowledge denied to most except the enlightened, which basically means those who have taken acid. It's also highly likely Lennon was trying to use obscure lyrics here to try and write something similar to what Bob Dylan would write in this period, since Lennon greatly admired Dylan. So the Beatles would begin work on And Your Bird Can Sing at Abbey Road Studios, or EMI Studios as it was known then, on April 20th of 1966. To start with, the band worked on the basic track for the song, which was noticeable for its jangly rhythm guitar part similar to the Byrds. For the basic track, Harrison played a Rickenbacker 12-string electric guitar backed up by Lennon also on an electric guitar, and drums were provided by Starr. So as with everything else on Revolver, this was recorded onto a 4-track tape, so all these instruments for the basic track would make up track 1. Now, being the absolute professionals that they are, the band would manage to nail the basic track in just 2 takes, and take 2 would be deemed the best to then start applying overdubs to. So next, Lennon would overdub his lead vocals onto track 2 of the tape, along with McCartney's bass for the song and tambourine played by Starr. After this, Lennon recorded a second vocal track onto track 3, along with harmonies from McCartney and Harrison, as well as Harrison's lead guitar solo. Track 4 at this point remained free, so the band decided that they would fill this with another Lennon-McCartney vocal, but it would descend into laughter and chaos. But not to worry folks, because it would turn out that track 4 wasn't needed. The band were only trying to fill this so that they had something on it, because they had a tendency to use up all 4 tracks and have to do reduction mixes. It was very rare by this point that they had any free tracks left, so they thought, oh, what we got this extra space for, we should really fill it. But in the end, they just scrapped track 4, and the 3 tracks that were filled, they could then mix the song because it was finished, and that was it. It was ready to go. So Revolver was released on... What? What do you mean there's more? There's more, apparently. So on April 26th of 1966, Paul, George and Ringo will have thought the song was in the bag. That was it. It was mixed. It was ready to go onto the album. But John came into the studio that day because in the 6 days since he'd recorded it, he'd had a change of heart. He'd thought, I don't like that song anymore, we can do it better. So he decided that everything that had been recorded on the previous session, bearing in mind the song was finished, would be scrapped, and they would now start it again from scratch. So during this day's session, the band would begin work on the second version of the song. Now if you want to hear that original first version of the song, well, good news, you can. It's on 2022 Super Deluxe Edition of Revolver. You can hear both versions of it. You can hear the giggling version and the non-giggling version. The non-giggling version will have been the version originally intended for the album, and it's quite nice, to be honest. It is more bird sounding with its jangly guitars. Yeah, it's really good. And the giggling version, yeah, it exists. It's one of those things, if you're one of the Beatles, it's probably very funny, but to the rest of us, it's pretty annoying. Now, the giggling version of the song was also released on 1996's Anthology 2, so you can hear it there as well. But I don't know why you would listen to that and why they thought on Anthology 2 to put the giggling version out and not the regular version of the first version. But thankfully the regular version eventually got released on the Super Deluxe Edition of Revolver. So yeah, give that a listen if you haven't heard it. It is interesting and I do quite like it, to be honest. I do think where they would go with the second version is superior to the original version, but I can see why they would originally think that, that's alright, that's done. Anyway folks, turning our attention back to the second version of the song here, the band would begin by working on the basic track, numbered takes 3 to 13. The basic track would consist of Lennon playing rhythm guitar, McCartney playing one lead guitar part, Harrison playing a second lead guitar part, and Starr playing drums. So the band would deem take 10 to be the best of the lot, so that's the one that they would start applying overdubs to. So firstly, Lennon overdubbed his lead vocals onto the track with backing vocals provided by McCartney and Harrison. Then McCartney would overdub his bass onto the track, Starr would overdub some tambourine, and then finally all 4 Beatles would record hand claps onto the track. And with that, work on And Your Bird Can Sing was complete. Well, nearly. When they came to mix the song a few weeks later, they felt that the song's ending wasn't very good. They preferred the outro of take 6. So what they would do was they would merge take 10 and take 6 together. So when you listen to the finished version now on Revolver, what you're hearing is take 10 with take 6 glued onto the end. So the outro of the song is actually a different take. It's very cutting edge stuff, merging takes at this stage, because they were physical tapes, but yeah, they did it anyway. Now, by the way, if you want to hear the full version of Take 6, well, good news, you can. It's on the 2022 Super Deluxe Edition of Revolver. It's the only outtake of the second version of And Your Bird Can Sing on there. I've got to be honest, when you listen to it, it sounds weird. It sounds like, do you know the original stereo mix of Taxman, where on one side, on one channel, you've got all the instruments, and on the other channel, you've got the vocals? It sounds like that, despite the fact that the outtakes are normally in mono. This one sounds like it's in a very jarring stereo mix. It's an interesting outtake, but the mix of it's really weird. Lennon's vocals are very much on one side and all the instruments are on another. It mustn't be a mono mix, it must be a stereo mix for some strange reason. But yeah, take 6 is there. You can hear the outro, which was glued onto the end, which you can hear anyway in the normal song, but you can hear the rest of take 6 if you want to. Right, there's no more versions of this song being recorded. I can say the line now, can't I, yeah? Good. Revolver was released on August 5th of 1966, and And Your Bird Can Sing was sequenced as the 9th track overall on the album. It was also the 2nd track on side 2 of the album. Now the Beatles, as with the rest of Revolver, wouldn't play any of this stuff live on their 1966 tour. Nothing off Revolver was played live, but there is debate about why they didn't do And Your Bird Can Sing, because of all the songs on Revolver, this is probably one of the ones that would have been easier to play live, because there's not really any complex sounds that would be hard to replicate on stage at this point. It's pretty much a guitar rock and roll song, this one. So why they didn't do it? Well, I think I know the reason why. The reason why they probably didn't do it was because they had fed up a touring and they weren't bothered about doing new stuff. They just wanted to jack in the tourings. So this song is my favourite Lennon song on Revolver, and one of my favourite Lennon songs, period. I absolutely love this song. If I had to put Revolver on and only listen to one song, it would be this one. Now, my two favourite songs on Revolver, funnily enough, they come back to back. We have this song and then the track that comes after it. But yeah, this song is just such a happy song, and John was very dismissive of it, and I don't know why. I mean, he did talk some absolute rubbish in his life. I mean, bear in mind, he did like Revolution 9, and he didn't like this song, which says all we need to know about some of the crap he would come out with. But then, to be fair, he didn't get to live very long. I mean, I imagine if, thankfully it wasn't, but if that had been Paul, where that had happened to in 1980, then a lot of the things Paul had said in the 70s would be very different to what he was saying in later years, if that makes sense, about Beatles songs. So, yeah, I always try and take what John said with a grain of salt. With a pinch of salt, grain of salt, what? Yeah, pinch of salt. Yeah, pinch of salt. Yeah, because he was maybe being motivated by certain things at the time because it was fresh after the Beatles split. So he maybe wasn't being as honest as he maybe did feel about this song. He maybe did like it. I mean, the other three liked it. Paul and George would often sing this song's praises. I love the pace of this song as well. It's really fast. I mean, the song itself, it might be the shortest song on Revolver. It's less than 2 minutes, but just it's such a fast-moving song. And the first version was slower, but more jangly guitar-sounding Byrds influence, whereas this is more what you would probably later call an indie rock style song, which is a style of music that I like. You maybe can tell from this channel. But yeah, I love this song, I love it. I love the lyrics for this song as well. Stuff like, when your bird is broken, will it bring you down? I think that's a really clever, thought-provoking lyric, because I do think the bird thing in this song, it is about girls. I think it is using the English slang word, just based on the fact the Beatles had a precedent for doing this. But what it's effectively saying is, if your girl isn't feeling right, will it bring you down as well? If she's down, will it bring you down? Because the answer should be yes. But if you listen to that and you think, yeah, I don't think so, that's quite reflective on you as a person, because it should be a yes if your bird's feeling down. So yeah, I do think it's very thought-provoking, some of these lyrics. Yeah, tell me that you've got everything you want and your bird can sing, but you don't get me. I don't care what people say. This is definitely about Mick Jagger. I mean, it's a brilliant lyric. I mean, Mick, at this point, had everything he wanted, but he didn't have John Lennon, and he wouldn't get John Lennon if he wanted him, and his bird could sing, the late, great Marianne Faithfull. So yeah, like I say, we'll never know for certain what this song is about, but I do love the idea of it being about Mick Jagger, and that will always be the story, I believe. Like I say, I know there are people who will argue that the dates don't add up, but I don't care about the dates. I mean, you don't know exactly when Marianne and Mick started their relationship. Were you there? Did they go public from the get-go, or were they doing it behind closed, in private at first? Who knows? We'll never know. So no one will ever know what this song is about, but I like to believe it's about Mick Jagger and the Rolling Stones, and I will always believe that. I don't care what anyone says in the comments. Another thing I love about this song is the harmonies. Now, I didn't know until I was writing the script for this video that Harrison is also doing harmonies. I thought it was just Lennon and McCartney singing this song. I can't actually hear George on it. You can definitely hear Lennon's voice, and McCartney is doing the high harmony. McCartney's voice at points of this song is the dominant voice. But Harrison must be doing a low harmony that you can't really hear. But speaking of Harrison, the lead guitar on this song, Harrison and McCartney work very close to try and get the lead guitar, because it's apparently, I'm not a guitar player, so I can't be 100% certain on this, but it's apparently quite complex what's going on here, because you have McCartney doing one thing, Harrison doing the other, and they're having to kind of intertwine with each other so that it works for the song. Yeah, apparently not an easy thing to do. Can I just say as well, it's an absolutely killer riff, this song. Yeah. Now this is quite a welcome rock and roll song on the album. It's quite an experimental album. This is more of your bog standard rock and roll song. It's probably John's one and only bog standard rock and roll song on the album, I would say. Like I said, She Said, I love that song as well, but I prefer this one. There's just something about it. It's just such a happy song. So to conclude here, because I'm rambling, favourite song, joint favourite song on the album with the one that comes next. I think it's a brilliant song. John was talking absolute rubbish when he was dismissive of it. I just think, yeah, it's a fun song. It's a happy song. It makes me smile. And if I was only going to listen to one song off Revolver, it would be this one. If I'm making a Beatles playlist, which I don't normally do playlists, but if I was going to and I had to pick one song off each album, without hesitation, the song I would pick off this album would be And Your Bird Can Sing. It's a brilliant song. I absolutely love it. So that concludes another episode of Revolver In-Depth, folks. Once again, thank you very much for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, I'll make the joke again. Do what Paul's doing here. Yeah, get a thumbs up. Leave a comment as well. Do you like And Your Bird Can Sing, or are you in the John Lennon camp where you think it's a horrible song and you're quite dismissive of it? You're strange if you do think that. As was Lennon thinking Revolution 9 was a good song. But anyway, I digress. If you're not subscribed to this channel, please do subscribe. That would mean a great deal to me. Believe it or not, a lot of work goes into these videos, so subscribing shows some support and it makes me happy. Makes me very, very happy and stuff like that, so yeah. Anyway, there's a playlist on my channel as well that consists of all previous episodes in this series, and all future episodes will also be added to that playlist. Anyway, join me next time here on Revolver In Depth, where we're going to be looking at my other favourite song on this album, and it's a breakup song. Till then though, do take care.